Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted something that I think merits a longer conversation because I do see a divide on the left when it comes to this issue, and I want to dive into it here. So this is what she said. I go back and forth on whether to go on Fox News. The main reason I haven't is squaring the fact that the ad revenue from it bankrolls a white supremacist sympathizer to broadcast an hour-long production of unmitigated racism without any accountability whatsoever. And you can see the tweet that she's responding to there. Andrew Lawrence says, Tucker Carlson guest says that AOC's district is dirty, and the reason it's so dirty is because it's one of the least American districts in the country. It's occupied by relatively few American citizens. So, I mean, it goes without saying that's a grotesque comment. It's an absurd comment. It's a pathetic comment. It is a bigoted comment for sure. And it should be condemned, and it's just gross. Now, having said that, I don't think that's a reason to never go on the network. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys who disagree with me, but I'm going to make my case here. So, first of all, every mainstream network, every mainstream news network, pushed the Iraq war relentlessly. They were more than happy to go along with the propaganda of the Bush administration. So, if we're really going to be objective about this, and we really have standards about where we go and where we don't go, well, any network that's responsible for pushing that narrative is responsible for getting us into a war that killed a minimum 200,000 Iraqi civilians. Poor brown people. Minimum 200,000. Some estimates are over 1 million innocent brown people murdered, killed. So, any criticism you levy of Fox News is just as valid of the other networks. And then you get into the other question of just like, factual accountability. We got Rachel Maddow, who's been spreading Russiagate conspiracy theories since Trump's been in office, and just over the top, proven, verified, false, wrong about everything she was pushing. She even did fear-mongering about the Russian threat, about how they might shut off the power when it's cold out in northern parts of the U.S., and what are we going to do then? Like, this is just bordering on bigotry and hysteria, anti-Russian bigotry. So, again, if we're going to have standards here, we're going to say, yeah, I mean, Fox News is loathsome. And I think it's a fair point to say they're the worst, because they're consistently more wrong than everybody else, and they're consistently more bigoted than everybody else. But having said that, any reasonable, criteria would say, I gotta leave all of them out because they're all miserable. They've all either pushed for illegal wars, or had bigoted coverage, or just are riddled with factual inaccuracies, or their outrage meter is broken and they focus on all the wrong things and they don't cover the things that really matter. So again, any objective criteria would lead you to that conclusion, and I don't think this is a false equivalence to say that. I think it's an actual equivalence, that they're all really, really, really bad. But that leads to the actual point, which is, it's not about the networks themselves. It's about the people watching the networks. And are there going to be some TFGs among the people watching the networks? Absolutely, of course there are. But does that mean you shouldn't go on the network? No. No, not at all. It's about getting who is gettable. And if you really believe in your ideology, you really believe what you're pushing for, well, then of course you go everywhere to try to spread your message. There's an implied point here when you say it's not worthy to go on there, and that is like, I will lump off all the viewers of that network into the irredeemable, deplorable basket. And they're all too far gone, and so I'm not going to waste my time. Well, then that's literally saying I'm just going to preach to the choir from now until forever. Congratulations. Very bold of you. That's not, like, that's saying I want to doom leftism to be a cool kid subculture from now until the end of time. I don't want that to be the case. I want to change minds. I want to bring people into the fray. I want to expand, the beliefs that I'm espousing, therefore making it more likely we get it implemented. The more, the merrier. So I fundamentally disagree with this idea. I think it's a very, very bad idea. And just look at it from a raw numbers perspective. Let's say Fox News has 1 million viewers, okay, on any given show, which, by the way, is roughly about correct, depending on what time of day you're looking. 1 million viewers. Let's be kind to AOC's position here and say 90% of those viewers are going to go into the interview hating the lefty, and they're going to go out of the interview hating the lefty. 90%. 90%. Well, 10%, you'll get like, these are rough numbers, obviously. I'm just making them up, but I'm still being like overly kind to her position here. Maybe like 9 out of 100, 9% of those people will at least hear one thing she says and go, you know, that one wasn't a bad point. I might not disagree with her overall, but when she crafted that bill to go after the predatory payday lenders, to limit interest rate to 12%, to stop these rapacious companies from stealing from the American people, I kind of agree with that one. That one makes sense. So you got 9% are going to go, okay, she at least has 1 point. But then what if there's 1% who hears like, I don't know, 2 or 3 points she makes and says, well, that one wasn't bad. And that one wasn't bad either. And okay, oh, well, that was a decent point. Well, then you've started the movement towards a deconversion. Now, it's not an overnight thing. Nobody just hears you once and they're like, oh, sold. No. Because people are complex and it's taken them years and years and years to build up to where they are now, and their identity can be somewhat tied into it. And so it's a long process. It's a long, arduous road. But deconversions happen. They absolutely happen. With some percentage of people, they absolutely happen. What if you could be the spark that initiates that? What if just 1% of the viewers heard what you said, think you made multiple good points, and next thing you know, they're off to the races, and maybe 6 months from now, they kind of come to the position of, I'm a lefty. Because it's going to happen with some percentage. We could argue over the percentage. You could say, Kyle, I don't think it's 1%, maybe it's 0.5%. Okay, but 1% of 1 million is 10,000 people. 0.5% is 5,000. Is it worth it to go into the lion's den to change 5,000 minds or change 10,000 minds in the long run? Absolutely. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is you don't go in there, and then Fox News is still wall-to-wall terrible propaganda all day long. Wouldn't you want to puncture that bubble and say, okay, today it was 98% propaganda, but my 2% that I added to the network today was actually perfectly reasonable and made sense. So I offered a voice that countered the narrative. Don't you want to do that? I mean, that's how you convert people. And again, even if we're talking about, you could come up with incredibly rigid numbers, but here's what I guarantee you. It ain't going to be 0%. There's no way you're going to not change anybody's mind. That's not going to happen. You're going to change, even if it's 0.01%, you're changing somebody's mind. It might take a while, but you're going to change their minds, especially if you believe in your message. And she believes in her message. So this mindset on the left, I really want to go away. This idea that like, well, some people aren't worthy of trying to get. Now, by the way, I want to make this crystal clear, because then the counter argument to me is like, oh my God, that's so naive. Are you saying nobody's too far gone? No, I literally have a term for it. TFG, too far gone. Of course there are some people who are too far gone. But who cares if they're too far gone? You're not going to get them anyway. And so they hate you going into the interview. They hate you going out of the interview. Whoop-de-doo. Who cares? Nothing changed. That's fine. That's whatever. You want to hate me? Hate me. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care. Hate me all you want. It makes no difference. But if I could change 1% of the people's minds, that's a huge net benefit. That's a huge net benefit. Now repeat that over, 12 times. 12 times you go on Fox News, let's say, over the next 5 years. Repeat that process 12 times. We're starting to really grow. So, that's my takeaway from it. And if you say, because again, one of the main criticisms of this is, oh my God, that's so naive of you to think that this is the case. Is it? Is it? Bernie Sanders went on Fox News and had probably his best town hall segment and converted plenty of people. Plenty of people were like, wow, yeah, that's actually a really good point. I know, because my brother-in-law texted me about one of his friends who's been a Republican his whole life. And the dude texted him during the Bernie Sanders town hall and said, listen, man, if it's Bernie versus Trump, I'm going to vote for Bernie. This is a lifelong Republican. What was his reasoning? I have kids, and obviously this guy wants to fix the system and is looking out for us and cares about the country. More so than Trump, this guy believed. And he's a Republican. Now, that's just one example, and you could say that's anecdotal. Fair enough. I'm not counter-arguing that. But there's obviously virtue in going into the lion's den, especially if you really believe what you're talking about. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does really believe what she's talking about. And they're gonna lie about you. They're gonna twist your words. But when you show up, and all of a sudden your face is humanized to some percentage of those people, that makes all the difference in the world. Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, Joe Rogan is not by any stretch of the imagination comparable to Fox News. I just want to be clear about that. He's immensely better beyond them by far. But he certainly has a bipartisan array of guests. For sure. He certainly has a bipartisan audience. His audience is all over the place politically. Bernie Sanders showed up there. If you read the comments, you would be floored. Because people were like, I thought this guy was an old crank. Now I see he's really, really reasonable. You know, I said before, you don't get the deconversions that happen like that. But actually, when Bernie went on Rogan, you may have seen some of those. You literally may have seen some of those. So if you read the comments, minds were changed, man. So we got to get out of this mindset of being like holier than thou. Just saying, well, you know, if you're not already with me, you're an irredeemable deplorable. You absolutely can, I'm not saying ever, bite your tongue about something you believe in. No. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. You want to go on there and be like, hey, by the way, that was a really bigoted segment you did? Of course, by all means, go do it. But you can make that case directly to their face. And I really dislike this idea that unfortunately a lot of people on the left have of like, no, you don't even bother to go on there because they're all too far gone and there's no point in it. There's no benefit of it. I just think that's factually wrong. I think that's mathematically wrong. So I don't know, maybe with a lot of people, and I'm not talking about AOC here because I don't know what she thinks about it, but I think there are maybe some people on the left who are just, they don't want to go into a situation where they know 9 out of 10 people are going to not like them going in and not like them going out. And they won't be able to take the torrent of like abuse and annoyance of people coming after them. And I could understand that from a personal perspective. What I'm saying is from a strategic perspective and from a perspective of expanding a left message as far as possible, you should be able to put your feelings aside. Put your feelings aside. Yeah, the times I've gone on Fox News, I'm sure 9 out of 10 people in the audience were like, forget this guy. I hate this guy. 1 out of 10 might be watching this segment right now and agreeing with everything I'm saying.